Thanks for joining us today. Today, I have Roy Kamen. Sir, can you go ahead and tell me a little bit about yourself?
I'm old, been around a while. If you want to know my history, I started in martial arts in about 1965. My brother was my first sensei in Ishinryu. Then I studied with Toritaro Miyazaki for a short stint in Shotokan back in Flushing at his dojo. And then I joined Shotokan in Manhattan under Seikichi Taguchi's dojo, Toshi Tamano, for approximately 8 years. I received a Nidan there in Goju-Ryu, traditional Okinawan Goju-Ryu, and a Shodan in Kabuto, Matayoshi Kabuto. I then switched over when they closed the dojo, and Sensei Tamano moved out to Italy. I joined Kalun Ang, known as KO, down in Chinatown, in his Chi-Do organization, and I was with him until pandemic time, the lockdown, when I started One World Dojo, which is a Zoom dojo. And we had probably about 25 people from around the world, high-level martial artists in a variety of styles. And I continue it to today. In the meantime, my career was an audio engineer. I owned an 11,000 square foot recording facility in Times Square in New York City, and producing commercials. I produced probably about 20, 30,000 commercials and won lots of awards for it. I have retired since then, and now I'm teaching kids karate and after school programs around the city, which is very rewarding. And one live in-person adult class at Active Studios in Manhattan. And I continue the Zoom class once a week on Monday night, which I do for free. So that's basically it in a nutshell.
So let's take it back to 1965. So when you first started your martial arts, can you tell me about your first lesson? Do you still remember?
My first lesson. My first lesson. Robert took me to NYU where he was teaching. He was a Shodan in Ishinryu. And I think, I was 12 or so. I was pretty young. And in the class with all college kids, he said, throw a punch at me. He wanted to show something. So I didn't know what I was doing. I threw some kind of a half-assed punch. And the next thing I know, he swept my leg and sent me flying across the room. I landed on my butt. It was very embarrassing. So he was talking about sweeping legs way back then.
Do you want to tell the audience who your brother is?
My brother's Robert Mark Kamen, my first sensei, and he wrote the movies The Karate Kid, Transporter, Taken, Fifth Element, amongst other 25 or 26 feature films. So he went on to use his Goju-Ryu and Ishinryu to become famous and make lots of money. He now owns a vineyard out in Sonoma, and he does very well. He's still writing, still doing movies. They're doing The Karate Kid, the musical. It's in London right now, coming to the States soon. He's got a book coming out, his autobiography. It's pretty interesting. It's got an interesting life, my brother. Yeah.
That series inspired millions to join martial arts. I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah, I know. It's great. The message of the movie is that karate does not live in the hands; it lives in the heart.
Yeah.
It was how we were brought up in the arts in the Shotokan of the Taguchi. He stressed that karate was to better the character, sharpen the spirit, form an indomitable spirit so you can withstand the struggles of life. Like he likened it to the small pine tree clinging to a mountain, and that was in one of the movies. A pine tree clinging to the rugged rocks over the ocean, and yet it thrives in the harshest of environments. And that's what martial arts should be about: development of character, so you can withstand the struggles of life.
I agree with that. I come from Taekwondo, and we have the tenets of Taekwondo: courtesy, integrity, perseverance, self-control, and indomitable spirit. And that was bashed into me growing up. That became part of my character. So I definitely understand what you mean by that.
We spend so much time in the dojo practicing to defend ourselves against a threat of being attacked in the street. And the chance of being attacked in the street, unless you're in law enforcement or you're a criminal or something like that, or a bouncer, the chance of being attacked is so small, really so small. Yet we spend so much time practicing, honing our bodies and our minds and our breathing and everything. So there's got to be something more to it than just learning how to fight. If you really want to learn how to fight, you take some karate classes, take some boxing, take some ground fighting, take some judo, take some taekwondo, learn how to kick, and then go to the bar every Saturday night and start a fight. In a year, you'll be a damn good fighter. I tell you, until the guy pulls out a gun and shoots you.
I've heard the comparison to like knowing how to fight to knowing how to swim. You know what I mean? You're not always going to need to know how to swim, but when you do need to know how to swim, you better know how to swim.
I don't look at studying karate to fight because we're not supposed to fight.
Yeah,
Okay, if you
yeah,
spar, all right, you spar, you get into the ring, you're going 3 minutes, whatever you're doing. We're not supposed to fight. We're supposed to end fights. We're not
yeah,
supposed to get
yeah.
into them in the first place. End conflict, no conflict. That's what the message should be taught to all students. No conflict, avoid conflict at all costs. Um, Shoji Miyagi, his famous line was, don't hit anyone and don't let anyone hit you. Avoid conflict. As a matter of fact, karate means empty hand,
Yeah,
but the empty, I interpret empty as being void, not weaponless, void. So turning, creating an empty space, stepping out of the way, weaving and bobbing. These are all methods to create empty space for the attack to fill. In other words, if they can't touch you, they can't hurt you.
absolutely.
So that's my interpretation of karate.
So, how has martial arts changed throughout the years in your experience?
Um, Back in the early days, there was a lot of free fighting and full contact, no holds barred fighting. It was pretty brutal. And it's changed since then, obviously, because of the lawsuits. You look at someone the wrong way, they sue you now. It's a big concern in the arts. For instance, every class I teach, I have a camera going because, especially with kids, you just don't know. A kid can say you touched them the wrong way and boom, you're in jail. So that it's gotten very, dangerous from a law point of view. So you really have to hold back. I don't know. I don't think it's changed all that much because we do hold to tradition, like you're saying. We hold to tradition. Most martial arts, traditional martial arts, I should say. Then you have the newer arts that they don't give a shit about that. We care about tradition. You and I, the older arts, more traditional arts, we practice getting our bodies strong, getting our minds sharp, and getting our spirits up. And as long as you come from that point of view, you're following the masters of old, which is part of the allure and mystique of the martial arts. I don't know about you, but I watch lots of video. All styles. I watch the Kung Fu. I watch the Japanese styles, the Korean styles, the Indonesia. I watch kickboxing. I watch boxing. I watch wrestling. I watch all that stuff. And when your eyes get sharp enough, the zoom has really sharpened my eyes. You can see so much and you can pick things up from other people without having a teacher. Uh, I have not seen my teacher since the beginning of the pandemic. He stopped teaching. So I have to teach myself now. And thank you, KO. He taught me how to see technique, power, transmission, absorption, through his Chinese background, I've learned about sinking and swallowing, spitting and rising, and all that stuff that the Chinese arts used. After all these arts, they come from China, and it all originally came from India. So a lot of the postures we do have to do with yogic postures. I took Ashtanga yoga for a while, and the stretches and the postures are very similar to Goju-Ryu. So I do believe that the legends of Bodhirama, Daruma, coming from India to the Shaolin Temple, teaching the monks his techniques, his breathing techniques, his exercises, and then them watching how animals fought and combining the breathing and the postures with the concepts of strategies of animals created Kung Fu. And that spread throughout Asia to become karate in Okinawa in Japan, Taekwondo up in Korea, and the Indonesian arts and all around the world. It's spread around the world. It's fascinating.
So,
So I've been practicing a long time and teaching for quite a while. One day I was walking along the beach and I was practicing Koironfo. Out, open, come up, right? I'm practicing over and over again. And one of the moments, it was gorgeous out, absolutely a magnificent day, one of those inspiring days. And I looked up and reached up. I imagined that dark cloud of suffering. I don't know if you've ever seen the cartoon with the guy walking around with a cloud over his head and it's always raining on him. Wherever he goes, this is one cloud and it rains on his head. He's a real sad sack. He's depressed all the time. I saw that cloud over my head and I naturally just reached into it and I grabbed it and pulled it into me and threw it into the sand. Now, these are the techniques from Kurunfa, kata Kurunfa. I threw it into the sand and I fell on my ass in absolute tears, hysterics. I couldn't believe it. I didn't know what happened to me. It was the weirdest thing in the world. I got up and did it again. The same damn thing happened over and over again. I said, there's something here. There's something about this that's beyond the self-defense and the application, the fighting application. Next couple of weeks going by, I'm thinking about this, thinking about it, and I was doing Sanshin. And I got into the habit of opening Sanshin with my openness. I don't know if you know this system, open hand Sanshin. And something came over me of the realization that I am, in a sense, praying. This is the hand position of praying, many religions. And I had the distinct impression that I was giving love to whatever you want to call it, God, you talk universal energies, whatever. And I received power. And I got so strong and tears started coming down my face. I wasn't crying. It's just tears. My tears started coming down. It was the strangest experience. So I'm putting all this together. I had a big fight with the wife. I went down. I did Saifa Kata really strong. And the whole concept of emotional and spiritual power of the katas came to me. I had a conversation with a therapist, a Buddhist psychologist. He happened to be Buddhist. And I explained the concept I have of using these kata as a stepping stone approach to reach a state of compassion, of enlightenment. And they said to me, we've never heard of using a violent art form to become compassionate and reach a state of enlightenment. You should write about it. So I went home that night and I opened my computer and I had a list of conversations that I had had with my karate group back in 2012. Now we're talking about 2016, 2017. So back in 2012, when Facebook started really kicking in, we had on our Chi-Do Facebook group, we had tremendous conversations. And I asked a lot of questions and a lot of very high level martial artists joined in. And there was some pretty heavy discussions about this kinds of stuff. So I started looking through and I saved them all. I know every time a conversation would end, I'd save it. So I'm looking through them and the idea started to gel in my head about using the kata as stepping stones to reach this point of enlightenment. And how do you do that? So for 6 months, I wrote. I wrote from 9 o'clock in the evening until 2 in the morning when my ex-wife should go to sleep. And I'd write. And about 6 months later, she says to me, "Who are you talking to?" I said, "What are you talking about?" She goes, "You're on that computer, you're typing. I hear you typing. Who are you talking to?" Like cheating, right? I said, "You want to know what I've been doing?" So I printed out the pages and I threw it at her. And she went, "What the heck is this? You're writing a book." I said, "I am?" She goes, "Yeah, you're writing a book." I took it as an exercise. She said, "You're writing a book. Keep going." So I did. I kept going. And the result was this thing. Surface.
Where can my
It's
listeners buy that at?
on Amazon. What I came up with was that each kata addresses an emotion, a human characteristic that when you follow the steps, you can reach the state of fearlessness and then compassion. You start with anger. Base human emotion is anger. So let's work with rage. Let's take anger to its peak, which is a rage. Can you infuse that energy, that emotion into your hand, into your kick? Can you punch with rage and then drop it? In other words, can you use your anger as a weapon to make your attack stronger? And I practiced over and over. And yes, indeed, it's very difficult to bring up your anger quickly as a choice and then release it just as quickly. Just like we punch and then relax. You got to be relaxed to fight, right? Tight and then relax. So I assign rage to our first kata, saifa, because saifa means to rip and to tear, or it means to break a stone 10 times. You hit it once, it cracks. You hit it twice, it breaks. You hit it 3 times, it pulverizes. You keep hitting it until it pulverizes with rage. So you get your anger. You learn to use your anger so you don't get angry anymore. You use your anger when you need it. And there are times you need to be angry. You just do. What's up next? Love. Kata seiunshin. A lot of people get taken advantage of because they're too kind. They love too much. Kata seiunshin is all about opening up the heart. All this heart opening and offering it to your opponent. And then taking heart energy and kneading it like dough. These are techniques of the kata, kneading like dough, turning it over, these elbow techniques, crossing it and shooting the energy out. There's all sorts of stuff with the heart energies. Next kata, seisan, as I was saying before. And seisan, it's probably the most religious of all the katas. You're touching the universe. You're learning how to be part of the overall scheme of things, not just an individual, but part of everything. Next kata up is seipai. Seipai has some very interesting postures in it, and they're very confident postures, confident postures, confident postures, confidence. And you need confidence in the martial arts. If you don't have confidence, you're going to get your ass kicked. You might get it kicked anyway, but we're all about being confident. You got to have the pride and the confidence. But don't let it go to your head, because that's living in a delusion that you're that great. So the next kata, Sosochin, has a movement in it that sweeps across this way for an arm break. You sweep across to an arm break. This is a mudra. We'll get into mudras in a minute. It means to use the sword of enlightenment to cut through delusion. So by doing this kata in that mindset, you get rid of the concept that you're really good. Because, you're studying now, so this kata you've been studying 5 years before you learn it. And you've got this confidence from Seipai. And now you got to cut that shit. I mean, cut the delusion. We're all delusional. We see life through the filters of our experience. So that's how we see the world. Humans see the world through their own personal experience. And you've got to cut through all that to see the reality of things. So when you're facing somebody, you better see clearly. If you've got all these grandeur ideas that you're going to do a spinning back kick and jump up in the air and knock them down, forget about it. Ain't going to work. So that kata deals with delusion. All right. Now that you're done with delusion, it's time to leave the dojo. It's time to go. You got to get out into the real world and start experiencing in real life. Kata Sanseru. Kata Sanseru starts off with a flying kick where you are really taking distance. The kata is all about projection. You project your energies. So when you go out into the real world, how do you present yourself as a human being? Think about it. How you have your hair, how you dress, what do you look like, how you speak, how you behave, how you treat people. This is how the world sees you. You can choose how you want the world to see you. And it should be a choice. It shouldn't just be, well, this is how I am. No, you have to choose how you want to be presented out in the world. It has to do with Choja Miyagi saying, don't let anyone hit you. You need to project yourself outside. And we all do. It's just, are you doing it consciously? The next kata up is Corinthos, this one. Now I'm looking at that cloud, and I see that cloud as suffering. When you leave the dojo and you go out into the real world and you see the world clearly with no delusions, you see how much suffering is in the world. A lot of suffering. Some of it's silent, some of it's obvious, but there's a lot of suffering in the world. You can't do anything about it until you take care of your own. But once you take care of your own suffering and you learn to remove that from your life, you experience joy, absolute joy. You're happy all the time. As you see many martial artists are when they walk around. They're just happy. The best martial artists I know, the best fighters I know, laugh a lot. They're always laughing. They're having a great time because of all this was happening to them. The final kata, Pachurin, or Super Impe 108, is full of these hand positions. These hand positions, Mawashiyukis, right? Up and in. This hand position is a mudra, which I should explain. The hand position means fearless compassion. This hand is fearlessness. In other words, stop. I'm not afraid of you. This hand is the hand of compassion. Is there something I can give to you to help you with? Typically, this hand is on the left side, which coincides with the heart, and this hand is the right side. Just like when we start kata, this hand is the fighting hand, power. This hand is the control hand or the peace, hand of friendship. I offer the hand of friendship first. If you don't take it, I have this for you. Okay? That's what this is all about. In Indian philosophies and religions, even in Buddhism, hand positions are very important. Heaven, earth, man or person, woman, man. So in Kata Seisam, for instance, we come up this way. Heaven and earth, man. Okay. Fearlessness, compassion, sword of enlightenment. And these mudras are hand positions that are sprinkled throughout our katas. And if you can decipher the hand position with the mudra, you unlock a key to what the kata means. Second, mantra. A mantra is a word of power. What is a kiai? A kiai is a sound of power. So our kiais are the mantras. The third aspect is mandala. You've heard of mandalas? A mandala is a pattern. If you took our katas and you put a camera on the kata from every direction and you did the kata and you compressed it into a single image, you would have a shape. That shape or the umbusin is the mandala. So when you take a mandala, the mudra, and the mantra, you have three pillars of these religious sects of Indian religion and Buddhism. And so I put all this together. It took me quite a while to do this. It took me a year to write the book, and it took me a year to actually put it together because each kata gets assigned a mudra. We'll start with Saifa. Saifa is rage. It's red, it's angular, it's hard, it's edgy. Seonshin, heart chakra. Teisan, universal understanding, connection to the universe. We're a part of something much bigger than we are. Seipai, confidence, total confidence. So these are the mandalas that came up with. Sisochin, ending delusion, clarity, seeing the world clearly. Sanseru, projection, get the power out. Kurunfa, joy, experience joy and your suffering, experience joy of life. And Pachurin, the yin yang, 108, fearless compassion. And if you notice, the grand Buddha is in the same position as Okata's end. That's the position of fearless compassion. So I looked at all these katas as stepping stones to reach a state of fearless compassion. You can't really be compassionate and kind and giving if you're afraid to lose your shit. If I have money, I'm afraid to lose my money. I can't be compassionate and give to someone who's in need. If I have food, I can't give it to someone who's in need because I'm afraid I'm not going to have food tomorrow. That's fear. If you end your fear, I'm talking no fear, including the fear of losing your life. Once that happens, you can be an extremely compassionate person. And we as martial artists should not fear losing our lives. You know, we should be fearless because we know how to fight. After you go through all these katas, you're talking decades to get there. You should not be afraid of anything. Nothing we should be afraid of as martial artists. So that's my philosophy of the martial arts.
There's so much in there that you talked about, you know, doing like in Taekwondo, we have the Pumse or forms, but if you don't do, if like I had to take a break because I had spine surgery, but the moment I came back and I did my first one in years, I felt so much better.
You know, I'm 70. I'm going to be 73 in 2 days on Friday. Today's August 5th. So I'm going to be 73. And, you know, I've been training. I've trained under Taguchi, under Tamano, under Miyazaki, under my brother, under Teo. I've done a lot of training and I train people and And I do it on Zoom a lot. And over the pandemic, I was teaching 17 classes a week. It was insane. And I watch myself when I'm doing this. So I've learned a lot by watching myself and watching others. And where I'm at now, interesting enough, is my toes. I'm obsessed with toes. When someone starts a kata, I watch their toes. Are they using them? Are the toes alive? You know, let's face it, we need to be grounded, right?
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
grounded people. What's the first thing on the ground is your foot and your toes. And people I watch kata, and almost no one uses their toes. It's mind boggling. Now, I'm getting older and I'm really doing martial arts for health and longevity. I'm not doing it to fight. I'm using it for health and longevity. And insofar as Goju is concerned, traditional Okinawan Goju, if you approach it the right way, you will live a long time and you will be healthy. It's a very healthy system. There's the exercise system we do at the beginning. I call it Taiso Daruma. Taguchi called it Daruma Taiso. Miyagi called it Junbi Undo. There are lots of names for it, but basically it's a system that starts at the toes, works its way up to the top of the head, including stretching, strengthening, breathing, meditation, visualization. And what I've learned is that doesn't matter how strong your muscle is. It doesn't matter how strong it is. If the connective tissues to the bone are not strong and flexible, we're talking tendons and ligaments. If they are not strong and flexible, I don't care how strong your muscle is, it's not going to be used at peak performance and it may end up ripping. So the Taisho Daruma really focuses on tendons and ligaments via twisting, all this twisting. And Goju is all built around twisting, circles. It's all circular. So the twisting that we do, the hard twisting that we do, stretches and strengthens the tendons and ligaments along with the muscle. So it's very good for your health. And I've come to the conclusion that fingers and toes work together, wrists and ankles work together, elbows and knees work together, shoulders and hips work together. So if you're working your hands, work your toes. One of the things that I stress in the exercise system, let's say you're sitting on the floor and you're stretching your left leg. What's your right leg doing? What's it doing? Are you just focused on one thing? Listen, as martial artists, we got to focus on everything. You know, it's really hard to do being aware of everything all the time. It's exhausting until you get used to living that way and being that way. And then it's fun. So, yeah, so now I'm focused on longevity and feeling great. You know, I feel good. I feel probably the best ever, period.
That's awesome. I'm gonna link your book and stuff in the description of this podcast. So when it airs, all
Thanks.
your stuff will be there.
Thanks. What I did was I started at my beginning. It's my story. And I thought it was important to explain how and why I got to this point of understanding. So more than half the book is a story about what my experience, explaining how I got there. For instance, one day I hated New York City. I lived outside of the city. I grew up in Queens, and there's trees and there's grass and there's sky. New York City, Manhattan was all buildings and concrete. I didn't like it. I moved into the city anyway, for my business and my family life. And one day I'm looking out the window and I saw all these hundreds of apartments all lit up. And I'm wondering, what are people doing in there? What are they doing in there? That was one of the things that struck me. Second thing that struck me was I would drive to work in Times Square. And when you get stuck at a red light in Midtown Manhattan during rush hour, you must see hundreds of people walk by you at the red light, you know, crossing the street, hundreds. And I got into the habit of watching people, watch them very closely, what they wear, how they walk, how they hold themselves, their facial expressions. And I kind of figure out what their life is like, what they are like by watching them, you know, how they project themselves. So I'm sitting there one day looking at all these apartments and all of a sudden the whole freaking place lit up. Like each apartment had life in it and each person's life interacts with other people's lives. It lit up and the whole city lit up. It was remarkable, the feeling of how that happened. So in the book, I explain how a building is not built to be a building. It's built to house people. That's the purpose of the building, not to be a building. It's to house people, to live in, to work in, to play in. All right. It brought me to the next point. What is a pipe? What is a pipe? What is a pipe? A pipe is not there to be a pipe. A pipe is there to carry water, gas, oil. What is a wire? An electrical wire. It's not, the purpose isn't to be a wire. The purpose is to carry electricity through the wire. So I started applying these concepts to the martial arts. What's our punch for? It's not to be a punch. It's to shoot the chi out. You want to talk about chi and power and energy. You're talking about something you cannot see, touch, or feel. I mean, it hurts when you get hit by it, but what are you being hit by? Force. The force is not the arm. It's the movement. It's the force of the chi. So that was a major part of the book. That there's purpose beyond the visual of what you see. And the purpose is so deep and it's so complex. And after a while, it becomes the beautiful part of the art. So the actual physical part of the art, the fighting, takes a secondary role to the beauty of what's beneath everything, hence the cover. This is what I envision as what we see in the martial arts, but this is what the martial arts really is. It's so beautiful. And it's funny. I have my brother proof the book. You know, he's a writer, right?
Yeah,
Who else he
yeah.
has to proof the book? And he called me up. He says, "What the hell is wrong with you? Put some leaves on that tree." It was really funny.
That's great.
Yeah, it was really funny. So interesting story about the mandalas, how I chose them. I had the idea of, let's say, Saifa, the idea of rage. So I started looking at mandalas. And there are a lot of mandalas out there. I mean, you go online, you look up mandalas, there are thousands of them. So I started looking for ones that were red for the anger, angular for the edginess. And I would find about 10 mandalas that kind of sort of fit the bill for each kata. And then I started mixing and matching. How do they work with each kata? It took about 6 months to really come up with the concept and find the individual mandalas. I had to license some. I had to talk some people into letting me use them. A couple were free, were in the public domain. So that was an interesting project, getting the mandalas in there.
That was some heavy stuff, man. Back to the martial arts side of things, like the your journey through it. You have many styles. So how was it transitioning from your first style to your second? Was it hard?
Well, the Ishinru, no, the Ishinru was, I was young, and he focused mostly on fighting. There was a lot of sparring going on. Very funny story about sparring. Two of the guys, we were young, two of the guys were sparring, and one guy threw a kick, the other guy blocked with his hand and broke his hand. And he went, "Sensei, Sensei, my hands, my hand." He said, "1 point, no points, keep fighting." It was really funny. So he, of course, when I when I came out with the book, he said, "You kidding me? The crane technique was from me." Everybody's claiming the crane technique. He's going, "It was from me, from my broken hand."
That's
Um,
awesome.
so Ishinru is it's a fighting style, and I teach Ishinru to kids. Right across the street from where I live, there's a dojo that I teach kids 1 day a week, and I teach Ishinru. It's really strange. When I interviewed for the job, the guy said, "I know you do Gojo. Can you do Ishinru?" I said, "I can do anything. I've been doing this for so long. Just show me, I'll do it." I remember Ishinru. And he said, "Remember, there can only be one tiger on the mountain." I said, "You don't have to worry because I'm not a tiger. I'm a lion. Wouldn't you rather have a lion watch your back than a sheep?" So it's a funny story. Anyway, so I went from Ishinru. It took a couple of years off. Then I went to Shotokan. And Toyotomi Mizaki was a force to be reckoned with. He was a champion fighter in Japan. Very tough dojo, very militaristic, a real Shotokan, very hard. There was one guy there, Takahashi, man, he did a spinning back kick, hit an 80-pound heavy bag, and the damn thing folded in half and then straightened out and didn't swing. I was like shocked. I couldn't believe it. Anyway, I didn't like the style. It was too hard for me. And then my brother told me about this dojo in Manhattan, in Rockefeller Center, Shotokan. I went to a demonstration March 1974. And Taguchi sensei had come in with a few Okinawans with him. And they did a demonstration that knocked my socks off. Unbelievable. They have something called bunkai. Taguchi was one of the first to do it. They take a kata and they create the imaginary opponent. You know, when you do kata, you're actually fighting an imaginary opponent. And it's very cool because the imaginary component can do anything. And it's up to your imagination as to what he's going to do. And so do you block this way? 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 I mean, you can do one block any number of ways. Is he taller than you? Is he shorter than you? You know, are you blocking with this hand and punching with this one? So imagination plays a large part in it. So he put together these bunkais, and some of them are pretty intense. We'll talk about bunkai in a second, but Seipai bunkai ends with a head throw, where you grab the guy by his head and you break his neck. Well, they did it. And the other guy, he completely flipped himself over to prevent his neck from breaking. I was blown away. They did it full force and full speed, the
Wow.
whole thing. It was incredible. Anyway, I love the idea of bunkai. I love the idea of prearranged fighting. I'm not a big fan of sparring. I think sparring can teach you timing. It can teach you distance. It can give you experience with the adrenaline dump. It sharpens your eyes. It does all sorts of good things for fighting. But bunkai, a prearranged technique, for instance, technique of straight shudansuki, straight chest punch. Block it, right? That's the idea. Now, I'm going to punch you in the chest, and you know I'm going to punch you in the chest, and you know how to block it. And I know you know how to block it, and you know it's coming. I'm going to try to hit you as hard as I can. I'm going to try to hurt you. So therefore, you have to learn how to block a real punch that's not being pulled. I'm going for a point, a vital point, and I'm going hard because I know you're going to block it. So you learn how to block real attacks coming in that are meant to really hurt you. You know, you miss your block, you get hurt. I mean, I've been in pretty hairy situations. I've been thrown on my head all the way to broken my neck. So it gets pretty rough and tumble sometimes, especially after a little sake. Oh boy. You go home the next day going, oh my God, I'm black and blue everywhere. The transition from Shotokan to go to Okinawan Goju-Ryu was drastic because it was no longer this militaristic Japanese kind of hard thing where you bus everybody on the floor. You'd walk in and you'd bow in arigashimasu and arigato gozaimashita, respect and courtesy. It was very big there. This prearranged stuff was very big, learning really body control, basics. Everything was basics. I mean, I've done basics for so long that when you start to move into more advanced techniques, they're clean because the basics are so good. You've got to train the basics. Very important. And going back to the exercise system that we do, all the exercises from the Taito Journal are taken from the higher forms, from the higher techniques of the forms. So you can theoretically, if you get good at the exercise system, which is like the longest kata in the world, it takes about an hour to do, you can use it for self-defense if you had to. And it really builds the body and prepares the body for the more difficult movements of the kata. So that was my transition. The transition from Shurikan to Chi-Do was very interesting because KO came from Shurikan. He actually opened the New York dojo and the Uptown dojo in Mount Kisco. It was oh my God, the guy's talented, so talented. I was a Nidan as Shurikan, and Tamano had left to Italy, and we were dojo-less. So I rented a dance studio. I was a Nidan. I was one of the higher ranks. There was only like one or two guys over me. And I rented a dance studio on 27th Street between 6th and 7th Avenue. And we met Friday night from 6 to 9, just black belts. And we had a fairly large class. At the time, I opened a dojo in Queens. And we had about 150 students aged 7 to 70. It was a really interesting class. So anyway, here we are at Shurikan, and a guy at my Queens class says to me, I was taking a dance class in New York, and after the dance class, it was a karate class. And the guy knew Tamano, knew Shurikan, does everything we do. And not everybody did Shurikan. It was a very small group. So I knew I had to meet this guy because he said it's a short Chinese guy who knew all about all about Tamano. And when I joined Shurikan in 1974, there was a rumor going around that there was a short Chinese guy who was really good and a badass who had left. And I wondered where all the black belts were. There weren't that many black belts there. They had all followed him. he had a big falling out with Tamano. Well, I find out this guy is on 26th Street, 1 block away from where we were doing our class in Manhattan, on Friday night, the same night, from 9 to midnight. So, of course, what did I do with a couple of my buddies? We snuck out. We snuck around the block. I felt like it was in a kung fu movie. And we go to see this guy, and they were all Chinese. There were like 6, 7 Chinese guys there. He's Chinese. And as a welcome, when he found out we were from Shotokan, he was thrilled because he had a big falling out with Tamano. And here we are not happy with Tamano because he abandoned us. So he welcomed us into the dojo. And I'm a second degree, and all his students are brown belts. So as a welcoming entry, he had everybody do a kata. It was charming, I got to tell you. It was like, I felt like I was in the 1800s. So everybody got up into the kata, and we got up and we did our kata. And when it was done, he said to us, you guys, your kata look like pretty guns, silver, beautiful guns. You got no bullets. I said, what are you talking about? He said, hit me. I swear, the guy's in shorts in the dressing room with no shirt on, just standing there. He says, hit me. I said, what do you mean? He goes, hit me as hard as you can. I said, okay. I hauled off and hit. I bounced off. Okay. He said, he looked at me, blew me a kiss. He said, sweetheart, hit me. Okay. So I hauled off. I hit him as hard as I could, man. I bounced off this guy. I landed on my ass. It was incredible. My friend who was with me, who was bigger and stronger than me, did the same thing, same effect. And the guy just stood there. And then he said, okay, he handed me 2 phone books. You remember the old phone books? They're about this thick. I'm holding them. He says, get into your strongest stance. So I get into a long stance, my heels in the ground. I'm strong, right? He puts his hand on the phone books. He's just standing there, no stance. And he goes, I lifted off the ground and went back 5 feet and landed on my butt, and I felt like an electric shock went through me. I'd never felt anything like it. Now, I'd been hit by pretty strong guys. I had never felt anything like this guy. I said, would you teach me? He said, you have a teacher. I will be your tutor. It was really interesting. Real kung fu movie stuff. So we started studying with this guy, and he was absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. An article came out in 1986 in Inside Karate magazine. And he's pretty vocal about his opinion of the martial arts, and it was not pretty at all. And his line was, show me, don't snow me. So all of a sudden the dojo filled up with all these guys coming out of the woodwork trying to test him. And he'd say, all right, first thing you have to understand is if you're going to do this, someone's going to get hurt, because when I don't do this, I don't play. I don't spar. You want to come at me? Suffer the consequences, one way or the other. And everybody that attacked him, he used kata technique. No bouncing, no spar, nothing. He used straight kata techniques. It was incredible to watch. And this one guy came up, was a big wrestler, grabs my teacher, throws him on the floor on top of him in a hold. And within a second, this guy was up off of him screaming. My teacher slipped his hand down into his leg and grabbed his thigh. Now, my teacher had huge arms and hands like paws, like an animal. And he just went like this into his thigh. The guy lost it, totally lost it, and became a student. All these guys that became students. It was wild. I mean, I'm talking advanced martial artists, all became students. Anyway, so that was my transition to where I am today. And I opened the One World Dojo March 2020 when the pandemic hit, which is another story. And I started teaching. I amassed a whole bunch of guys on there and girls, and I taught school, 2 different schools. They went to Zoom. So I taught, like I said, 17 classes a week. I think Zoom is a fantastic tool if you don't have a dojo nearby. Fantastic. It's hard to teach the beginnings and basics without being able to touch someone and feel the power, but you can. It's especially good for advanced martial artists. I've got a couple of guys now, one from Mexico, one from Puerto Rico. These guys are pretty high level, and they come to me because they want to fine tune their Goju katas. And it's very interesting because I have a slightly different take on the stuff. Whereas everybody else, their chudanuki comes across this way, a circle coming out this way to either strike, to attack the arm, or to redirect it past you. I don't do it anymore. I come in, and what happens is I came up with this. I was facing a guy. He must have been 6'2". I'm 5'6", weigh 155 pounds. This guy was 6'5". He weighed 300 pounds. He was a mean motherfucker. He looked like a gorilla, this guy. He wanted to take my head off. I'm senior student. I'm the oldest one in class. He's a Shodan, strong as an ox. He tried to kill me, this guy. Like I said before, we tried to hit each other. And I could not move his arm. There was no way I was going to redirect his arm or hit his arm. No way. And they found the only way to block him was to, I even tried the first hand to parry it. Nothing worked. I'm telling you, when some guy's like a tree trunk coming at you, you can't move it. All I could do was create the void this way, elbow in with a slight turn. And his arm just sailed past me.
Hmm.
Sailed. He didn't know it hit him. And the best part of it is when he came in on me, guess what my fingers ended up? Right in his throat.
Wow.
He was like, whoa, where'd you get that from? So that's what I teach now.
The problem that I ran across was beginners that have no experience at all. It's really hard for them to pick up the technique. I had the fundamentals to pick up the technique, but somebody new, it's hard for them to get it. So how do you
Yes, it is
overcome
hard.
that?
You just got to start with we start with our C step. We step this way.
Yeah.
First the stance, then the hands, cross block, just cross block, and correct as much as possible. It's hard to teach basics on Zoom.
Yeah.
Someone that doesn't know anything, it's difficult. But more advanced students, it's easier. I had one guy. His name is Sifu Robert Chu. He's a doctor. He's a Chinese medicine doctor out in California, and he does Wing Chun and he does Shunryu. He's pretty high up there, and he joined us because I knew him on Facebook. He wanted to see what was going on, and I did Tensho kata. And he said to me afterwards, he goes, something wrong with you? I said, what are you talking about? He said, your hands are all red. He said, that's an indication of this and this and this and that, bad blood flow. I said, what are you talking about? I said, I do that on purpose. He goes, what do you mean you do it on purpose? I said, watch. I stuck my hand down. I turned my hand red. He became my student. It was really funny. It was really funny. So, I got some really high level guys in my group, and from different styles too. It's fascinating. I got some Shito-ryu, other forms of Goju, other traditional schools from Goju. It's really interesting class.
You have beginner through advanced?
On Zoom, I only do advanced.
Advanced, okay.
I only do Zoom on advanced. I was going to, during the pandemic, I realized that if I wanted to really do this seriously,
Yeah.
then I had to do a 24-hour thing to satisfy everyone. I had people in Indonesia and Australia and in Europe. So it was difficult for a lot of people to join us at the times that on the East Coast of America. So if I really wanted to do it for real, I would have had to gone, 4 classes a day, separated by 8 hours each. To break the day up into 4 sections. And I was not into doing that. I just didn't want to do it. So now most of the people are in the United States. Once in a while, someone from Europe comes over. Beginners, it's hard to teach. If I had to, I could. I mean, I've gotten very good at teaching on Zoom. I'm really good at it. And there are other guys that have come online. Paul Enfield has come online. He came on after me. He's pretty good. He's very well trained, and he's got a lot of experience now with Zoom. And there are a couple of others. The Okinawans are now coming online. The old Okinawan masters, they're coming online, which is interesting. But, number one, you have to be a good teacher. Number two, you've got to have really sharp eyes. I mean, I can see guys when their back is to me, I can see what they're doing wrong with their hands. It's bizarre, but I can. It's from doing this so much. Also, you have to kind of know production, like you're doing right now with your camera. A lot of people don't understand production. They don't understand what it takes for lighting and background and how to work the camera. I mean, I'm constantly moving the camera around. I'm going to show my feet. I'm going to show I'm spreading my toes, how I step. I mean, I step very differently than most people. Here, I'll give you a little example. And this flies in the face of most people. Most people will step this way.
Yeah.
They come in and they step. Now, the problem with this, besides the technique of it, a couple of things wrong with it. There, I'm vulnerable. As soon as I commit my weight, that can be swept. This foot can be swept out as soon as you put your weight on it. So what I do is I go to one leg. I step out. I feel the floor. And then I shift over. As soon as I know I'm okay, I shift over. And I'm doing this slowly. You can only learn this by going really slowly. I'm talking really slowly. Move your stance. You realize that you have to go to one leg. to step out. Secondly, when I step down, I pull my hips in, the edges of my feet come out, I spread my toes, and I grip the floor, and then I get into stance. I lift the hips up, squeeze the pelvis, squeeze your anals, pull everything up and in. Simultaneously, what I was talking about before with voiding is when you step, here's your center line, you come off the center line and you come back onto the center line. As I was saying, with voiding, creating the void.
Yeah.
There are many other lessons about creating the void. What Sanchin actually is. I don't know if you know Sanchin kata. You've heard of it,
Yeah,
obviously.
yeah, I've heard of it.
Sanchin kata, I believe, give you guys a little lesson. I believe Sanchin kata is a reaction to a forward attack. I'm standing here. Guy comes straight in. I'm talking not just stand there and punch me, barreling in. All I got to do is turn my body. So I'll do it from front. Turn my body and create the void. Block him. At this point, his flank is right in front of me to hit. Now, if I do it facing this way and I turn my left foot and I block and I punch, I'm in Sanchin position. So Sanchin is a reaction to a forward attack where you create a void and you open up his flank for attack. Vital area right here. It's a vital spot right below the nipple into the armpit. That's what I believe. And that's what I teach.
I do want to ask you one more question about your brother. So whenever, because he created the Karate Kid series.
It was very funny. I went to my summer camp for visiting day where I went as a kid. My brother went there as a kid. And people would go, Roy, we haven't seen you in so long. How's your brother? He's the famous one.
Whenever you read it for the first time, if you read the script.
I didn't read the script for the first time.
Okay, I
I
didn't know.
didn't read the script. No, I didn't read the script. I went to the Ziegfeld Theater for the premiere. John Avildsen was there. Robert was there. The actors are there. KO was there. It was intense. And I watched the movie and I went, holy shit. That's Goju-Ryu and that's Tensho. This stuff, this is all Tensho. Paint the fence, wax on, wax off, to sand the floor. These are all the Goju techniques. I went, holy crap. What a great movie. It was great. I was very proud of my brother. Very proud.
Do you feel about that? The Miyagi-Do being Goju-Ryu?
It was from his experiences in Ishinru. His first teacher was a Marine, and there was always blood on the floor at the end of class, always. And they used to go out to bars and fight. They used to go out and start fights. These guys, they were tough as nails. So that's where he got the crease from. He got the concept of the mean fighting dojo versus the Miyagi-Do, which is Goju-Ryu, based on the teachings of Chojo Miyagi. The inside scoop on Mr. Miyagi was based on what Robert thought a sensei should be, what he would always dreamed a sensei should be. And there was some interesting things that he took, characteristics he took. For instance, he was studying with KO at the time. And KO owns a building in Chinatown. He's the maintenance man. And KO owns exotic cars. He has a Bentley and he has a DeLorean and he ran a car company, a car repair company. And he teaches karate for free. So he took those aspects of KO's life and injected it into Mr. Miyagi. And then when he went to Okinawa to research Karate Kid 2, he met and trained with Meitoku Yagi sensei. And so Miyagi took on the new persona in Karate Kid 2 of Meitoku Yagi. Fascinating how it all morphed based on his experience, his personal experiences. He came back, he said, Roy, he said, I've trained with everybody in Okinawa. I saw everybody who's anybody, and KO's better than all of them. Stay with him. So I did. I stayed with KO until just, he's still my teacher. Everyone claims they're Miyagi. Everyone claims they made the crane technique, and the truth is Robert made up the crane technique. He took pieces from here and there. Taguchi Sensei has Hakutsuru kata that comes up this way and down, up and down. He does that, but the concept of the crane and the kicking technique, he made it up. It's, as he says, I'm in the makeup business, make stuff up.
I loved those movies growing up, and now my daughter, she's watched all of them. She's in Taekwondo as well, and she loves them. Far these movies have went and how much good they've done for the martial arts altogether.
Absolutely. When I saw the Karate Kid recently, Columbia University had a special showing of the Karate Kid, so I went, and there were kids in the audience, and they walked out doing 10 show. I was like, "Whoa, check that out!" Very cool. The message is what's really important. It's that karate is in the heart. It's not about fighting. It really isn't. And you could make it about fighting. It could really be anything you want. That's why it's so popular around the world. It could fill anything you need. It could fill the need to fight, the need to protect yourself if you live in a rough area. Um, it can teach you how to live with other people, how to work with other people, how to overcome your own hardships, your own deficiencies, disabilities. We've had kids that are just not quite right, and they get a handle on how their behaviors. I've seen it. I mean, I've been teaching in the school system now for a few years now, and I see how this affects children. It's really interesting experience teaching the kids. We teach from 2.5 to 16, and then they join the adult classes. So it's fascinating.
I feel like you're a part of the future of martial arts with what you're doing. Where do you see the future of martial arts headed?
Well, similar to what happened in Okinawa in the 30s, 20s, and 30s, what was a civilian self-defense art started to become physical fitness in the schools. And a lot of deadly techniques were taken out of certain schools. Certain teachers, of course, left them in. They stayed traditional, but many took them out. And a lot of the martial arts developed from that point of view without even realizing it. So when you look at forms nowadays, you don't see the deadly techniques. You don't see the throat rips and the eye gouges and the groin attacks and the prostate attacks. We don't kick really to the groin. We kick to the prostate. You want to kill the guy. You want him to go home and bleed to death internally. Um, so that's real combat martial arts. And the truth is, listen, I think when you go back to Okinawa in 1945, Chojin Miyagi and all the Okinawans who invented this shit back then, I think they saw what real fighting does. And it's not pretty. It's devastating. It destroyed their island. It killed a third of their population. It destroyed their libraries of all their martial arts studies that they had done over the years. I think it broke his heart. Quite honestly, I think it broke a lot of hearts. Talk about spirit of these guys. And it really affected what was taught afterwards. So they saw that it's really a waste of time to teach people really how to fight. It's much better to teach people how to live, not to kill. So I think now the emphasis is on martial arts as character development, physical fitness, longevity. A lot of us are getting older. All the guys that started back in the 60s, 70s are all now they're 70, 80 years old. And if you practice to fight, you're going to get injured. And those injuries come back to haunt you at my age. Thank God we didn't spar in Shotokan. We did prearranged fighting. And then we did the Taisho Daruma, which keeps you very healthy. I think Taisho Daruma with Sanshin and Tensho, probably all you need for health. And you will live a long time and be very healthy, strong, flexible, happy. So I think the martial arts is kind of one side is moving into real health and longevity, and the other and spiritual development, and the other side is moving into combat, the ring, MMA, Gracie's, Thai boxing, the real hard stuff. Even though let's face it, man, you want to stop somebody, the eyes, throat, groin, break a knee, break the foot. If they can't stand, they can't fight. If they can't breathe, they can't fight. If they can't see, they can't fight. That's simple. You take those things out of the equation and that's it. You're saved. Um, but you rip somebody's eyes out because they're, making fun of you. It's not a good idea. So you've got to develop the spirit. You've got to develop an indomitable spirit. Know how you project yourself out into the world. Be a kind and compassionate person. Don't be afraid of anything. Try everything. Don't be afraid. We only have one life. It goes by so fast. All we have is our next breath. If we're going to leave you with anything, it's all you have is your next breath. Now feels the same all the time. Now feels like now as it did 10 years ago, as it will 20 years from now. And when you're dead, nothing matters anymore. You don't even know it anymore. So all that really counts is right now, the life you're living at the moment. And all that means is breathing. So when people say to me, "How are you, Roy?" I go, "I'm still breathing." One breath at a time. Enjoy them. I mean, the chance of us being born, it's so astronomically against us from being born. All the millions of sperm, one made it. And before that, your fathers and his fathers and getting together, and the coincidences of all the happenings of all the nows put together put us right here, right now, me and you,
Yeah.
right here, and our audience, and our audience. And all we have is one breath. I could kill over in a minute from now. I could have a stroke and die. All of us, the ceiling can cave in. You can get in a car accident hit by something. I mean, anything can happen. So really just enjoy your one breath that you're taking, every single breath. It's fantastic, joyous.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Mr. Kamen, it's been an honor talking to you. It really has.
Thank you very much. Look,
Yes.
join that class. I can give you the link to the One World Dojo. Anybody wants to join in, come on in. It's free. You want to learn Goju, come on in. You'll have to suffer with the rest of us, one step at a time. If you're a Goju guy, come on in. I might show you some things that might open your eyes a little bit to something new. Maybe you can show me something because we all share. I've learned a few kata from my guys. We learned the Hanshin from my guys and shishi. So we're open. You want to teach something? Come on in. If I think you're worthy, let's go. Show us what you got. We'll show you what we got. It's wide open. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thanks for the opportunity.